समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
आप समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
The Dhurandhar craze continues to sweep through India. The movie has now crossed the 400 crore mark at the box office. Forget India, even Pakistan, which is hardly getting many compliments in the movie, is obsessed with Dhurandhar. The hit music score has already made its way to weddings across South Asia and the subcontinent. In a moment from now, we'll be talking to celebrated author Shobhaa Dey, who had a very, very interesting and powerful review out on Dhurandhar, a film that she called epic. From Dhurandhar to Dharmendra, Shobhaa Dey always has an unusual, incisive, colorful, and irreverent, as well as authentic take. She'll be our newsmaker in a couple of minutes from now. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, the Dhurandhar craze. India just can't get enough of a film that, in a way, reminds us what movies and going to the movies was actually meant to be all about. Aditya Dhar's film, with an ensemble cast, has created magic at the box office. Based on real-life events, the movie has also been in the headlines because at least some film critics had some criticism of the film, and that generated a controversy of its own. But the average Indian sentiment is overwhelmingly in favor of the film. In fact, more than in favor of, simply loves Dhurandhar. I personally watched it and loved it. It took me back to the 70s, to the 80s, when we actually went to the cinemas to see a big film. It's a long film, but you actually can't get enough of it. You can't take your eyes off the screen. And the knockout performances by actors like Akshay Khanna, among others, Rakesh Bedi, so many, in fact, so many that we can't name all of them, is really, really worth a watch. Dhurandhar has been one of the big stories out of our film industry. The other, of course, just before that, has been the passing of cinema legend Dharmendra. And Shobhaa Dey also has a very, very interesting column out on how Hema Malini, in an unconventional marriage by any standards with Dharmendra, chose to express her grief, her loss, and her longing. Joining me on the program today is our very favorite Shobhaa Dey. As I say, there's never a dull moment with Shobhaa around. If you haven't read her most recent book on the sensual self, please do so. It's a riveting read, as everything Shobhaa writes and says. Shobhaa, great to see you. I watched, like so many other Indians, your short video review of Dhurandhar. You clearly loved it. Now tell us why.
It was such a spontaneous response to cinema, Barkha. I think it's very important. We've forgotten what it's like you reminded us, just going to the movies, watching something so overwhelming, so powerful, and not letting the politics of any of it drag you into a controversy, which to me seemed generated by various factors. Now, the film industry is no longer the film industry of the 80s and 90s. The commercial interests are so many. So who exactly was engineering this controversy and making it into, if you like Dhurandhar, you are pro right-wing, you are pro BJP. If you do not like Dhurandhar, then of course you are a leftist and you're letting the nation down. I have a problem with that argument to start with. The minute I responded as just a viewer, I was trolled. I had hate mail. Of course, you're used to it. I'm used to it. But the funniest was someone saying, "So has Pappu stopped paying you hafta? Have you suddenly switched?" What is this? Can we not be even remotely objective and a little intelligent about how we view entertainment? What is this film? It's not a documentary. It's fiction. It's one man's interpretation. Sure, he has his point of view, which may to a lot of people appear jingoistic or hyper patriotic. That's his take. But to try and build a political narrative and attribute motives to those who may not love the film is, I really think it's too juvenile and a very simplistic way of looking at movie making per se.
I so love you for saying that the appreciation of the film has nothing to do with political affiliation. I think this is such a reductive narrative in our country now, which can't seem to appreciate or not appreciate anything without labels, political labels being attached to it. But you used the phrase "who engineered the controversy." Why do you think it's an engineered controversy?
Well, given the way some of the sections of the media reacted, the kind of en masse trolling of, say, an Anupama Chopra, who had to, for the first time possibly in her career, pull down her column. She's a very senior columnist, a film critic. She heads various film bodies. She's highly respected. But if she was in any way pressurized or she brought pressure upon herself to say it's simply not worth it and to pull down a review which I thought was pretty innocuous, suggests something more than just a bunch of people saying, hey, you know what, we don't like you. I don't think it's as simple as that. I mean, there are so many other commercial interests engaged in the whole process of getting movies to theaters these days. I don't know whether it was a music company that that owns the music rights to the hit tracks of Dhurandhar, and they thought it's going to hurt their commercial interests. I don't know which lobby thought is going to damage the commercial interests of the film to hear something like that. I have no idea. All I'm saying is that Aditya Dhar, I don't know him. I may never meet him in my life again, but if I do, I'll shake his hand and say, you made a great film. It does not matter if he's made whatever his track record may be. I also enjoyed Yuri a lot. What does that mean that I've suddenly switched something? Because to start with, I'm non-aligned. I do not belong to any political party. No political party subsidizes me. No political party has done any favors to me, nor does any political party pay my bills. I have no vested interest whatsoever. I watch a movie, I comment on the ones that impact me, or I ignore the ones that, well, leave me cold. It's just as simple as that.
You talk about Anupama Chopra pulling down the Hollywood Reporter video review that she had, and how that's odd, because why would she have to do that? But the flip side is also true, that those like you who are praising the film are automatically being associated with the BJP. As you said, you got a comment saying "Kya Pappu ne paisa dena band kar diya?" Obviously, an illusion, a not flattering illusion to Rahul Gandhi. How did we get here? Why can't we appreciate a movie without this political polarization? I mean, it's such rubbish. The movie is a great film.
We cannot appreciate almost anything today in the cultural space without having political tags attached to it. Anything at all. So I'm not surprised that the kind of polarization that we're seeing over this film is taking place. And to see this film, I don't know the movie maker's intentions, but all I can say is, as a viewer, did I come out thinking, oh God, this is so embarrassing, cringe, it's so jingoistic. I mean, you can say what you want and you can run down the UPA government, and there can be innuendos galore about who sold out during the fake currency thing, all of it. But listen, I'm talking global cinema. I'm talking global filmmakers who have made films which are so obviously, so clearly partisan. We have watched them. We know where their political leanings are, but we're still watching them as viewers, and we're saying, all right, that's this person's point of view. I mean, all the films that came out post-Vietnam, for example, or Schindler's List, or all the films that the Jewish lobby in the US clearly finances. Most of the studios are owned by very, very big ticket Jewish promoters. We have movies on Watergate. What have they not tackled, which is contemporary history, and tackled from the point of view and perspective of the filmmaker, a filmmaker who doesn't pretend neutrality. So I don't know about Mr. Dhar's political leanings, but whatever they may be, I didn't care about his political leanings. Like, I didn't care if I'm watching Watergate, if I'm watching any of those movies, all the Vietnam movies, which are so, so brilliant. I'm not thinking, oh my God, is the filmmaker trying to brainwash me? I also saw a comment which said that Dhar was trying to recruit people. What does that even mean? That he's an agent who, through this movie process, which he spent so much time, effort, energy to create, is actually recruiting people to his ideology or on behalf of the party. I mean, it's absurd. It doesn't even deserve a response or a comment. But we are being forced into these situations. And I feel the more we play into it, the worse for us.
Shobha, you're absolutely right. Usually, especially when it comes to war and espionage, movies are often reflective of what a country's popular thinking is on those issues, right? And as you said, who cares who votes for whom? We're going to watch the movie for the craft, and whether it grips us or not. But one of the other accompanying controversies, and this one was from those who did not like the film, was to suggest that it was anti-Muslim. Now, I watched the film with two Muslim friends who loved it and enjoyed it as much as I did. And I found it really bizarre that a film that actually calls out Pakistan's patronage of terrorism should be conflated in any way with India's Muslims. I actually think that that's a disservice to Indian Muslims to use their interchangeably somehow with Pakistan and the Pakistan state. But I wondered what you thought of this one criticism that's come from not too many people, but certainly from a very vocal minority.
I'm absolutely, in a way, very disappointed because it's such an easy thing to do. To equate our own people with the film, which is not showing Pakistanis. They are showing a segment of particularly Karachi, Lahori, and the gangland wars that were taking place, and our intelligence operations at that time, etc. There was no comment. There was no, not even remote kind of insinuation about religion or Muslims being this way or Muslims being that way. Now you can read all kinds of things into whichever subtext that may obsess you, but it's a dangerous thing to do. I watched it in a theater with many Muslim friends, a lot of Muslim people in the audience, clearly Muslim by how they were dressed. Nobody seemed to be uncomfortable because it's not about them. So why would they be uncomfortable? It is insulting to try and put them into that slot. And next you'll be saying that, all the Muslims watching in this theater stand up and recite some pro-India slogans to show that you are with us and not with the way, well, what we are trying to show about Pakistan. But interestingly, Barkha, in the 80s and 90s in Mumbai itself, I mean, how different was Bhendi Bazaar? I was very much a journalist on the beat in those days. I've met the likes of Haji Mastan and Lahori and Bhendi Bazaar and all the underworld, the combinations, the gang wars. How different was it? How different was it? So at that time, if we could absorb all of it and let the cops do their job, and there were many movies made at the time, and they continue to be made, the Gauli movie and so on, many movies. Suddenly we are overreacting to this and saying that he is indirectly, surreptitiously, the filmmaker is trying to tell us that all Muslims are terrorists, the same old rubbish. So we really should not give it any importance at all and dismiss it for what it is.
I agree with you. I agree with you totally, like 101%. I want to ask you now on a lighter note, or a note more specific to the film and less to politics and ideology. Whose performance were you blown away with? The conventional sort of commentary is that Akshay Khanna outdid everybody. It's a fabulous ensemble cast. It's difficult to choose favorites. I saw your video review, and I think you felt that Ranveer had great restraint in his intensity. That's the word you used for him. But like, who were you particularly sort of couldn't take your eyes off?
it's Ranveer for me. I mean, Akshay had a role completely crafted for his character, and he was wonderful in the way he portrayed it. But also, I think the director knew exactly what he's doing, because, as we know, there's going to be a sequel in March, and that Akshay's character dies in this movie. So, in this chapter, as we might call it, or the first portion of the film, is clearly crafted and designed to project Rahman's character, Rahman Dakai. And so the focus was on him. But even in the scenes where the dialogues and everything is around Rahman conducting a meeting, for example, with the ISI guys and others, my eyes remained on Ranveer. I'll tell you why. It takes a very, very confident superstar to play a sidekick. In this chapter, he was very much the sidekick to the main guy, who is Rahman. To play a character who speaks very little is more or less a prop in the background, while Akshay is doing his thing and doing it wonderfully well. But to see him, Ranveer, not compromised for 1 minute, 1 second. He is in character. He is playing that guy, the dependable bodyguard sidekick who people ignore, but who's alert. He's waiting. He's listening to every word. He's probably the smartest man in the room, and it shows in everything. And when they finally do show him with a gun, I love the way the slow-mo thing happens and the transformation from being this meek sidekick to a gangster to coming into his own and then going back into being that meek sidekick. There were 2 or 3 extraordinary scenes where Ranveer's complete mastery over his craft and understanding of his job came through. Akshay, it was a dream role. Anyone would die to especially the entry, the song, all of it. And he's a very accomplished actor. So, I mean, he didn't sort of blow me away the way Ranveer did.
A last question, and I think you made this point too about the music. I think rarely has audio and music, whether it's sort of repurposing old classics or whether it's mixing in a sort of techno rap, whether it's getting in a sort of Arabic song and placing it in that, viral Akshay Khanna little move with the Baluch people. I mean, the music is, yes, exactly. The music score, the background score is just outstanding. It is such a big part of the storytelling.
But that again is a director's genius, isn't it? I mean, he could have asked for very different kind of soundtrack. And when you compare what he has done with this film, I'm also comparing it with others in the spy universe, all of which have been super big. They're all been super hits. Their narratives were very different. And they were very different because they were attempting a balancing act, and they weren't dealing with contemporary history the way he's gone straight, boom, into contemporary history. Here we're talking about the terror attacks of Mumbai, and the score could have been that kind of score, which is building up to a crescendo, or even during the hijack scene in Kandahar and so on. But it's almost operatic, and it's almost nuts and insane and crazy in its eccentricity. That is the genius of a filmmaker who can take risks, who's confident enough and says, this is how I want to project my film, and this is my spy universe. It has nothing to do with the other Khans and what they are doing, and their spy universe is theirs, but this is mine and I own it. That's a very big thing, because this seems to be, for the next 10 years, we're going to see versions of the spy universe films in different avatars. But out of all the avatars, I really liked this the most. It had much more depth. It had more credibility. And the characters, the build-up of all the characters was wonderful. The weak point was that there was no love interest, but I'm cribbing.
It's so interesting. I wrote exactly that for me, that there were 2 points that I wondered about. One was the love interest seemed forced. It just seemed like, just gratuitously put there. That was one. And the other point that has been vastly debated is the mixing, the intercutting between actual real life footage and fiction. And some people had a problem with that. And I actually found it very powerful. I find it, very, very powerful use of storytelling. And if it confuses people on what really happened, well, go back and read up and you can find the facts. Did you find that effective, or did you have a problem with it as some have had?
At all. I thought the intercuts were particularly valid for a lot of young viewers who may have no idea at all about what took place, when it took place, how it took place, who were the main players. I thought it was useful. The only thing I found very annoying were the chapter heads, and I thought that was a bit kiddish, especially the A2 brute at the end of it, and the final betrayal and so on. But the girl's role was strategically important because from what I can see, she's going to be playing a bigger role now that she's the Begum of the guy who is going to eventually own Karachi, which is his declared what he says in the movie. He who takes charge of Karachi takes charge of Pakistan, and that is clearly Hamza's motivation. So she's going to be playing an important role. She needed to be there. Hamza wouldn't have got to where he had if he had not married this girl.
Fair enough. Shobha, one of the interesting things you said is that the Khans have their own idea of a spy universe and Dhurandhar has its own. Do you actually see this as a sort of competitive, cinematic argument within the film industry, or do you think to each their own and there's space for everybody? And how do you see the difference in these approaches?
Well, to each his own is always a good place to start when you're in the creative field, and especially if you're ambitious filmmakers looking for markets. And they have taken a lot of trouble, the Khans, to create that very specific universe. And Hrithik Roshan is also a part of it. It's a specific universe, more Tom Cruise and less us. And the narrative is also significantly different because their approach is much more conciliatory and to kind of not offend our neighbors and not to take any controversy head on. So there is a song, there's dance, there are good spies, there are bad spies. The love interest can be a Pakistani agent who falls in love with our super agent and so on. It's a fictionalized, highly it's fantasy more than anything else. I mean, I don't think those kind of guys exist in real life, or I'm being stupid. This is very specific. It is about events that we've lived through. It's taking a lot of the very sensitive areas which we may not have so far had the courage to address as bluntly, as directly, and call out Pakistan as maybe the filmmaker feels we should have done a long time ago. The other movies do not do that. It's all built around some kind of a vague storyline where a superhero has to get the girl in the end and of course save the country. It's very very different here. I prefer this narrative. It's hard, it's cold. It tells it like it is. It could be semi-documentary, but at the same time, it's exaggerated and shot on a scale that is very, very impressive, much more credible. And for a younger generation, I think this makes much more sense than the other Tom Cruise versions of the spy universe.
I love that phrase, Tom Cruise versions of the spy universe. Finally, away from Dhurandhar, to something you wrote just in the last couple of days or for the print. And you wrote about Hema Malini and the passing of Dharmendra. And you wrote about how Hema, who is even by any definition today, someone who has been in an unconventional marriage now for years to Dharmendra, who has remained almost with two households while he was alive, a family with his first wife and his children from that marriage, and then his daughters with Hema Malini. And you have also spoken about how Hema, a member of parliament, not an actor turned parliamentarian, chose to grieve, and how that moved you in a very quiet, sort of unassuming fashion. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Given the fact that Hema is a towering personality herself, the idea that she chose dignity over making a public display of one-upmanship I think says a lot about her character. She could so easily have, in a way, it's not a nice word, but hijacked those emotional moments right after Dharamji passed away. Attracted, I mean, the media would have loved to cover every tear and every gasp that she may have taken and intruded into her privacy and completely stripped her of the dignity that obviously matters so much to her. Now, given that she is a member of parliament and a highly respected one, and that the ruling party would have probably bent over backwards had she but just indicated that she would have wanted something on a huge scale to mark the passing of, he was her husband at the end of it all. He had two parallel families, a primary family and her, but at no point had either of them disengaged or disowned one another as husband and wife. So I think she chose well. She chose like a Hema Malini, like I would expect. Must have been a particularly difficult and hard decision to be totally left out by the first family from something that she'd spent 45 years of her own life nourishing, cherishing, which had enriched her life, and she had two daughters from this marriage. It must have hurt terribly. But she kept all that for her own private way of however she wished to deal with it. And when she did have a public function, I thought she conducted it just with utmost dignity, or not just for herself, but for the person that she had lost.
Finally, you say that it must have hurt her enormously at the primary family, in a way, keeping her, you felt, and you wrote this also, at an arm's length, and yet she chose to not react to that at all. Are you struck by the sort of very quiet unconventionality? Like when you meet Hema Malini, otherwise it's not like she's some rebel. She's not exactly your idea of rebellion, and yet she has lived this deeply unconventional life. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
She is a hugely confident, hugely courageous person. She lives by her own belief systems, and I respect her for that. At the time when she was the dream girl, she still is the dream girl. She could have literally married anybody, but she married for love against a huge amount of opposition. And I would say I would give equal credit to him, because he also didn't shy away from making her his wife, legally wedded or otherwise, but certainly giving her the respect, the position, the status of being his wife. And they both arrived at a very intelligent way of managing the two households, where she never expected him to move in with her. She always had her own life. She would continue to have her own life, but he was an integral, intrinsic part of that life. He enriched her life all the way. But yes, she was not a flag-waving activist, and she must have taken the brunt of the worst kind of Bollywood nastiness that the other woman normally faces in circumstances like this. But Hema is Hema. She will not bend. She was marching to her own drummer. She will always do that, or dance to her own tal. And that's what makes her who she is, an extraordinary person.
Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. I could go on, but I know that you need to heal that cough of yours. We here in Delhi are used to now living, unfortunately, with chronic coughs. Thank you, Shobhaa. It's always riveting, always a pleasure. I'm waiting for the day somebody makes a movie on Shobhaa Day. I think we need a movie on Shobhaa Day's life and time.
Barkha, God forbid. I'm not that crazy about myself, nor do I think I've done anything extraordinary enough. And who the hell wants to know anything about my life? Even I don't want to know about it more than I already. I've lived it, and that's good enough for me.
Well, we think you're extraordinary, and I think there's a book and a movie there. So, inshallah, and God willing, soon. Thank you so much. Take care, and see you soon. Bye.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.